And now I have the pleasure of introducing today's commencement speaker, Dr. Stefanie Sanford. Stefanie is a dear friend and esteemed colleague I had the pleasure of working with at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, where she serves as Director of Policy and Advocacy United States Program. Stefanie leads a team and investment portfolio that supports policy development and advocacy at the national and state level to improve student success in K-12 and post-secondary education. Prior to joining the Gates Foundation in 2002, she served in several senior policy positions in both Democratic and Republican offices right here in Texas, as well as being a White House Fellow in the Office of Cabinet Affairs. She has more recently served as a German Marshall Fellow and an Education Entrepreneurial Fellow at the Aspen Institute, as well as on several nonprofit advisory boards. She holds a BS in Communication from Texas Christian University, an MPA from Harvard University, and a PhD in Political Communication from the University of Texas at Austin. Please join me in welcoming back to Texas, Dr. Stefanie Sanford.
Thanks, Mark. I think that's a wonderful and kind introduction. And for this wonderful invitation, congratulations on this historic achievement for you, for graduates, for your families. It's a great day. Texas has always been a place of innovation, whether in technology or energy, and now clearly in higher education. I want to thank Bob Mendenhall for his long leadership, vision for WGU, and the leaders of Texas who have supported this important new addition to the higher education ecosystem. It's a great day, and I am blessed to share it with you. And I am so happy to be back in Texas, especially back in Austin. And my mom is actually sitting right over there, and so she's glad that I came home to visit too. I'm really happy to be back home. I feel a little bit like Raina Rose. She's an Austin singer-songwriter that I discovered on one of my last trips back to town. I was in the airport heading back to DC, and my plane was delayed, so I stepped into the bar and ordered a really bad glass of red wine. I sat in the Hill Country Bar in the Barbara Jordan Terminal, and she came on stage a few minutes later. She looked out at the crowd. She took a deep breath, inhaling that aroma of Salt Lick barbecue and Maudie's enchiladas. She strummed her guitar and she said, "It's a great day to be singing here in the airport." And indeed it was. It was a great day. And I brought her CD, and it reminds me of home every time I play it. Now, I don't have a guitar to strum, and I don't have enchiladas in the air, but I can tell you it's a great day to be celebrating the first graduation of WGU Texas. Now, I am also very conscious that I am all that stands between you and the rest of your life. So I'm going to talk a little longer than a Raina Rose song, but not anywhere near as long as the whole album. So first I want to bring you greetings from the Gates Foundation. Our foundation actually has a pretty young history, but we've got a long history with WGU. Bill and Melinda Gates started the foundation to advance a fundamental belief that everyone, everywhere, deserved to have the opportunity to live a healthy and productive life. And in the world, globally, that means we work on health and agriculture so that we can to fight disease and reduce extreme poverty. Here in the U.S., we focus on education because we believe that education is the building block to opportunity. To get there, we focus on what the research tells us. We look for smart, innovative people, and we partner with them to innovate and to take risks. Big problems require big system change, and so that takes time. We don't watch results day to day or even quarter to quarter. We prefer to watch results over entire populations or over entire generations. Our work doesn't exist in isolation. There are great other nonprofits and governmental leaders who are working on issues of poverty, and we are proud to be a part of that community. But we believe that the lever to opportunity in the United States is education. And WGU is one of the institutions that we've supported since our earliest days. According to Gates Foundation mythology, the foundation actually started on Bill Gates Sr.'s kitchen table sometime in the early 90s as requests started coming into his son, the richest man in the world at that time. As it became more formal, it eventually moved into an office mythically above a pizza parlor in the late 1990s. As it became more formal, there were about 30 people there, and we still refer to them as the pizza parlor people. The foundation made its first grant to WGU in October of 1999, before we even had an education division. We had 149 employees at that time. 100 of them were out in the field connecting libraries to the internet. I've been there 11 years, and we've grown to over 1,100 people. There are not many things that predate me at the foundation: the pizza parlor people and WGU. WGU was just a nascent idea back then, was being kicked around by some Western governors, and now, a little over 10 years later, WGU graduates thousands of students nationally and is developing state partnerships just like the one we're celebrating here today. It's given rise to a whole new kind of degree, one that focuses on what you know and what you learn, not on how much time you spend in a classroom. It's provided a credible education avenue for all of you at a particular demographic, actually my demographic, working adults. It's demonstrated that a high-quality education can be delivered at a cost that people can afford, and it's growing its enrollments at a time when the nation needs more, not fewer, graduates. Simply, WGU and you are the vanguard of some big educational, economic, and sociological changes around the world. Now, I don't have to tell you that we're in a time of great change. That's all commencements are all about. We feel it as individuals, and we feel it across institutions. You and WGU are both a reflection of that change and a response to that change. So, New York Times columnist Tom Friedman has written a number of widely read books over the last 20 years. His two most recent were written about 6 years apart. First one was called The World is Flat, and it outlined all the great implications and opportunities that were going to come from technological advance and the opportunity that would be worldwide. It was brimming with optimism. 6 years later, just last year, he wrote a follow-up. That follow-up was called That Used to Be Us, and it's a less optimistic implications of that challenge and all of that change, especially here in America. His resonant phrase, average is over. Everyone needs to be better and better at what they do. And his cautionary implication is that America and Americans just might not be up to the huge challenges that the world is facing, as up to it as we were in previous generations. That America might not lead the world if we don't change our ways and respond to those global challenges. So that means as technology and economies change, so must we. You, me, and American higher education. Public higher education today is at a watershed moment. Funding is going down, and yet demand is going up. Our economy needs more, not fewer graduates. So to accomplish this goal, higher ed institutions need to increase enrollments, increase completion, improve student learning, and lower costs. At the same time, our public student financial aid systems are approaching a very real fiscal cliff. Our existing system was not designed to do what we now need it to do. What that means is we need to improve what we have and create things new. And so here we are, right in the middle of that. Average is over, the world is flat, and that used to be us. Which brings us to a really important question about this room today. Who exactly is us in American higher education? It's no longer an enterprise focused just on the top echelons of society or a small sliver of young people age 18 to 22 who come right out of high school and go into a residential experience. I look around this room, I look in front of me here, I looked as Mom and I walked into the coffee shop and then watched you all taking pictures of each other in the lobby. This student body is way more diverse than the group of students I went to school with. The traditional college student is only 25% of the population in post-secondary education today. And your group right here is a microcosm of that change. 41% are first-generation college graduates. 92% are 27 years old or older, with an average age of 39. Your youngest graduate is 22. And your oldest graduate is Robert Titus, and he is 80 years old. He always wanted a college degree, and by God, he got one. So clearly, education is not done at 18 or 22 as it was generations ago. It's now a lifetime enterprise. So it needs to accommodate work and families. It needs to be busy working students where they are, and it needs to respect their time. It needs to be as varied as we are and as agile and responsive as our global interconnected economy now demands. That's not to say that traditional higher ed is going away, or even that it's in decline, far from it. Quite the contrary. These institutions are as important today as they were 50, 100, 150 years ago. In the times of great change, generations ago, higher ed evolved, grew, innovated, and helped drive both opportunity and prosperity. The Morrill Act 150 years ago created the great land-grant universities in the wake of the Civil War. The GI Bill educated a generation of our grandparents after World War II. And the Higher Ed Act 50 years ago made unprecedented changes in institutions and spawned new inventions and increased access. They evolved and changed at each juncture to meet a national need. All of this activity helped create the broadest middle class and the most durable prosperity in the history of the world. And so today, we must do so again, expanding both access and success, and it must do so at a reasonable cost to keep it within the reach of low and middle income families. Getting done now is even more important than getting in. It's an important sentiment for today. And that knowledge demands just changes in students and the design of aid and then the design of institutions. You and the relationship of WGU Texas to the higher ed sector in Texas are a tribute to this tradition of innovation and to the spirit of expanding educational opportunity. I salute the president of my alma mater, UT, for his leadership in this arena and the political leadership in Texas for being at the forefront of these new models that meet students where they live and are designed to make sure that they succeed and complete so that you, can go on and live successful, productive lives. Now, as important as today is about the future of higher education and the future of higher education in Texas, really it's a most important day about you. So one of the other reasons I think that your chancellor invited me to spend time with you today, in addition to my history in Texas and my passion for education and my long work with the Gates Foundation and our long relationship with WGU, is that I've actually been thinking and writing about you for a long time. I did my PhD here at UT, and I did my dissertation on the intersection of politics, technology, and generational change right here in Austin. Now, I can't say that I predicted today, but 10 years ago, I studied people a lot like you, then in their 20s and early 30s. And they taught me that you were going to demand an education a lot like this. That work became a book called Civic Life in the Information Age that came out in 2006. And actually an updated paperback is coming out at the end of this month. And here's some findings that these young people that I taught me. One, you, worked really hard. They mixed community school and social life. Those things weren't separate parts of their lives. Like when you went to work from 9 to 5, you hit the Rotary Club at 5:30, you came home for dinner at 6:30, and then you didn't really think about work until the next morning. It was clear that all of that stuff was all mixed up together in the lives of those young people. They believed in just-in-time social capital. The idea that they weren't going to join organizations just to go to meetings and sit through things just to belong. They wanted to make things happen, to clean up a park, to register voters, to start a movement, to get a degree. They didn't want to waste time. They wanted to get stuff done. And they hated arbitrary rules that said they had to wait their turn or sit through things that weren't relevant to them. And the way they were going to be able to do those things they wanted to do was through technology. They didn't see it as a big revolutionary thing, but rather a tool to be able to realize the phenomenon of this just-in-time impact. They didn't have to adhere to arbitrary schedules of old guard organizations. They could move as fast as they wanted or as slow as they needed to. Finally, they had more weak ties than strong ones. That is, that they moved around a lot, so they knew a lot of people a little bit, instead of a few people really, really well. And those weak ties became the people they reached out to when they wanted to get something done, somehow, somewhere in the world, anytime, anywhere. Do any of these lessons sound familiar to you? I listened to these young people in Austin over 10 years ago, and yet their insights and premonitions, they were premonitions of the success we are celebrating here today. The success that WGU has had in creating a high-quality educational experience that meets your needs exactly, and the need of the new world as it changes. and an education that can span a lifetime, from 22 to 80. Their voice mattered then to predict the changes that were coming. Their voice also created the demand that fostered it. And their voice created the sound that the WGU leadership listened to and responded to and got us to today. Now, your voice matters to advance those ideas even further. So, looking back at what I discovered studying those young people, the obvious question is, what does it all mean? Especially today, on the first day of the rest of your life. So you've learned new things in a new way, as a part of a new institution that's helping a whole sector innovate amid huge changes in our economy and in our world. Consciously or not, you put your generational stamp on an entire education sector and open new doors for your own individual opportunity and for the opportunity of countless young and not so young people who will come after you into this global economy. And it's not even noon. So as you head out today into the rest of your life, remember Friedman's insights? Yes, the world is flat. And yes, average is over. But it's more than that. You, right here, right now, are challenging Friedman's notion that just because average is over, you know average is over, or you wouldn't be here sitting here today. That America might not be up to these new challenges, that America's leadership is in the past tense, that somehow that used to be us? I don't think so. You're instead coming down on the side of President Reagan's moving dedication to President Kennedy. He said, history isn't about people, history is people. So what you've done here, you've made history, and history doesn't stop. It continues to be made by the actions of people, you, after you leave here. So, evangelize a little about WGU. Talk about what you've done, how it worked, and the opportunity it's given you, and it will give you. Because it's through those actions, through your actions, that history gets made, that opportunity is realized, and the world gets changed. So working together as generational comrades, united in this pursuit of opportunity, let's make Friedman's next book, his follow-up to That Used to Be Us. Damn right, that is us. And when we've done that, my friends, it'll be a great day. As fine a day as there is in Texas. An even better day than singing in the airport. Congratulations. God bless you. God bless Texas.